matched with a clueless teammate while gaming. We cursed at each other out in the game, then took it to WeChat. From WeChat, it escalated to a face-to-face confrontation. Saw a gorgeous woman step out of a Maybach. Holding a baseball bat, I fell silent. So this is the little fairy. I stared at the mature and stunning beauty in front of me. Pretending to be fierce, I asked. But inside, I was panicking. This situation was way different from what I had imagined. Wasn't this supposed to be a grade schooler? The woman glanced at me indifferently. So you're the invincible T-Rex warrior? I nodded slightly. The woman chuckled with a sneer. Let me see how you plan to twist my right leg and shove it into my mouth. The pressure was overwhelming. I instantly felt defeated. A wise man knows when to back down. I quickly pulled out my phone and held it to my ear. Hello, Mom. You want me to come home for dinner? I'm heading back now. Just took 2 steps away. My arm got grabbed by someone. You think you can leave just like that? Leaving like this seems a bit too easy, right? Where did the bravado from those 2 hours of insults go? I was on the verge of tears. Who would have thought this stunning woman would have an online name like Little Fairy Poo Poo? Anyone seeing that username would think it belonged to a grade schooler. I guess after this incident, I should be cured of my online trash-talking habit. Seems like I can't just walk away without an explanation today. I sighed, turned around with a charming smile. Miss, have you eaten yet? If not, let me treat you to a meal. You pick the place. First time ever sitting in a Maybach in my life. I resisted the urge to touch everything around. Sat upright in the back seat. Out of the corner of my eye, I sneaked glances at the woman beside me. She was dressed in an expensive professional outfit. Her long hair was tied up. Her profile was delicate yet soft. Truly a face that could make people fall head over heels. After a 10-minute drive, the car stopped in front of a restaurant. She wanted to eat here. This place was the most upscale Western restaurant in the city. With my financial situation, to eat here for a meal, I'd probably need to start saving a year in advance. Before I could say anything, the woman had already stepped inside. Inside the restaurant, I sat stiffly in my seat. The woman pointed at 2 dishes on the menu to the waiter. This one. And also this. I glanced at the menu, breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, they weren't too expensive. Besides these 2, I want all the rest. I almost choked and died in the Western restaurant. Did I hear that right? All the rest? Might as well take my life directly. I muttered angrily in a low voice. That's way too much. We can't possibly finish. The woman replied nonchalantly. If we can't finish, we can pack it up. Why, don't you have enough money? The waiter's gaze fell on me. My pride began to flare up. Of course not. I silently vowed never to judge people by their usernames again. Regretting it so much, my intestines turned green. After work today, while playing Peacekeeper Elite, I got matched with a teammate named Little Fairy Poo Poo. At the start, we both jumped into the Matrix area, but this kid kept following me around like a shadow. Whichever house I entered, she followed. Found AM for 16 rifle, but she was always a step behind. Down to the bandages, she snatched them all up, leaving nothing for me. I looked at my inventory with only a pistol left. What were you dirt poor in your past life? Come to the game to rob people now? Were you born a thief or what? If you can't survive, just say the word. I'll send some offerings to you later. So, school holidays for primary students? You slipped your leash, huh? Did you even finish your homework? She occasionally typed back a few lines, but they were all harmless, mocking comments. Then someone entered the Matrix where we were. I operated like a mad tiger, taking down an entire squad, but got knocked down myself. And what did this grade schooler do? She was too busy looting boxes, even debating whether her outfit was better, or if the enemy's outfit looked nicer. She started changing clothes right there. Since she didn't revive me, I ended up with a game over. My rage hit its peak. Back and forth, we started cursing each other out. This grade schooler's vocabulary was pitifully small. The harshest insult she could muster was, "You can't find a girlfriend, and you're broke." We took the fight from the game to WeChat. Even on WeChat, it wasn't enough. In a fit, I invited her to meet up in real life. And now here I am, sitting here. The more I thought about it, the more frustrated I became. I grabbed the lemon water on the table, gulping it down in big swigs. Just as I was about to finish, the woman finally spoke. "That's for washing your hands." The water in my mouth turned into a fine mist, spraying all over the table. The woman looked at me with a look of utter disdain. She waved over the waiter to replace the tableware. My face turned beet red. I think I've lost every last bit of my dignity in this lifetime. But the truth is, I was naive. There's no most embarrassing. There's only even more embarrassing. Hello! Your total is 62,530 yuan. For a moment, I thought I was hearing things. The waiter patiently repeated it once more. I discreetly opened my phone, checked my WeChat balance. Great, not even a third of the amount. The woman stood behind me, seemingly aware of my predicament. Forgot to bring money? I hurriedly nodded. Like pounding garlic, my hopeful gaze turning to her. According to the script, her next move should be to pull out a black card and hand it to the waiter. The woman smiled. Damn, it was a charming smile. But her words were chillingly cold. "No worries, you can work here as a waiter to pay off the meal." I awkwardly to ease my embarrassment. Haha, very humane indeed. In the changing room, I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the waiter uniform on me. "Sir, once tonight is over, you can leave. Just 1,000 a night." Being a waiter to cover 60,000, my thoughts began to churn. I whispered, "So if I work here regularly as a waiter, will you give me 60,000 in cash?" The smile on the waiter's face seemed a bit strained. "Sorry. No, we can't." At first, it didn't seem too difficult, just serving dishes, taking orders, but in the latter half of the night, my legs felt like they were filled with lead. With a loud crack, a plate shattered on the ground. My sleepy brain suddenly became alert. The waiter appeared out of nowhere and said, "Breaking a plate adds an extra hour to your shift." "Sir, I just remembered something." I quickly asked. "Right, where's the woman who came with me?" "She left right after you started working." I gritted my teeth, cursing inwardly. Really holds a grudge, doesn't she? All I did was curse her out a few times, and now I had to suffer through the whole night while she just dusted her hands and left. The next morning, with 2 huge dark circles under my eyes, I went to the office. Xiaoyan, with a mysterious smile, leaned in and asked, "Zizhang, what did you do last night? Why do you look so haggard?" "Played games." I slumped on my desk, exhausted. Too fond of staying up late. I feel like my soul is about to leave my body. Xiaoyan, with a gossiping tone, said, "Come on, perk up. I have some juicy news for you. Word is, our big boss has returned from abroad, and apparently she's a great beauty." The big boss? I've worked here for 2 years, and I've never seen any big boss. "Well, you just don't get it," Xiaoyan continued. "People of this level are always quite mysterious." I joked, "Did the boss pay you in advance to do some PR for her? Look at you singing praises like that." At that moment, the general manager walked in. He announced that all employees should head to the largest conference room for a meeting. The conference room was packed with people. I deliberately chose a seat in the back to take a nap, just as I was about to fall asleep. Xiaoyan shook me frantically. "Zizhang, look, the big boss has arrived. Damn, she's really beautiful. Like a celebrity." I squinted my eyes, taking a peek. She was far away, but even from this distance, with my 200-degree nearsightedness, I could only make out a vague silhouette. The woman had a tall and slender figure, with a slim waist and long legs. But why did she feel so familiar to me? General Manager Wang, known for being a hard-ass, was passionately introducing her, praising her as if she were a goddess. His usually arrogant face was smiling like a wild chrysanthemum today. Next, let's welcome our CEO, Liu Ryan, to speak. After a round of applause, Liu Ryan stepped up. From the moment her voice came through the speakers, the familiar feeling grew stronger. I was certain I had heard this voice somewhere before. But where exactly? The next second, my question was answered. A large screen displayed a picture of Liu Ryan. The face in the picture perfectly matched the one who went wild ordering dishes last night. Flawless features, a striking and powerful presence. The other male colleagues were all blown away. I was also blown away. But literally, I fainted. I woke up from a bout of dizziness, barely opening my eyes. Liu Ryan's face was right in front of me. I was lying on an emergency stretcher. She and a few medical staff were rushing me down the hall. Why am I still having nightmares? Must be something wrong with the way I rebooted. I closed my eyes again and fell back into unconsciousness. When I woke up again, what greeted my eyes was the white decor of a hospital room. Xiaoyan, seeing me awake, let out a howl and pounced at my bedside. Zhang Wanson confessed truthfully. When did you meet the beautiful boss? My heart pounded furiously. Liu Ryan must have spread yesterday's incident around. How could I possibly face anyone at the company now? Damn, this woman kept me up all night. Made me faint in the process. How could she have the nerve to let everyone know? But Xiaoyan heard my words differently. His jaw dropped in shock. He muttered under his breath. She kept you up all night? No wonder, no wonder. I was completely baffled by Xiaoyan's reaction. No wonder what? Xiaoyan suddenly shouted. No wonder the moment you fainted. The boss rushed to take you to the hospital. When did you two start seeing each other? Now it was my turn to be gaping in astonishment. Liu Ryan brought me to the hospital? So that wasn't a dream after all. What do you mean, seeing each other? Let me tell you how absurd this whole thing is. After hearing my story, Xiaoyan gave me a big thumbs up, with a look that said, bro, you're too brave. I sat on the hospital bed, my face clouded with worrying. First, I had offended the boss, not to mention knowing how my colleagues are. They were probably all gossiping about how I pretended to faint to catch Liu Ryan's attention. I seriously suspected that I and Liu Ryan were destined to clash. If this keeps going, I won't have enough face left after 20 years. Just then, the hospital room door swung open. A woman appeared in the doorway, looking pretty lively. Huh? Liu Ryan glanced at me with a faint smile. I was speechless, thinking she didn't leave? Xiaoyan glanced at me, then at Liu Ryan, and promptly stood up and walked out of the room. In my heart, I screamed, Xiaoyan, don't leave me. But unfortunately, Xiaoyan didn't hesitate for a second, and even made sure to close the door behind him. A tense silence filled the hospital room. I was the first to break it. Thanks for bringing me to the hospital. No need, she replied. I was just worried that if you died at the company, it would look bad. You didn't have to be so blunt. I thought, how am I supposed to respond to that? Forget it, you're the boss. You're awesome, boss is always right. Liu Ryan raised an eyebrow, giving me a half-smiling, half-teasing look. Invincible T-Rex warrior. Have you been possessed? Little fairy poo-poo? Something I'm not sure I should say, I ventured. Liu Ryan pulled over a chair and sat down. Her long legs, wrapped in tailored pants, crossed elegantly. The view was undeniably striking. She tilted her chin up, gesturing for me to continue. I took a deep breath and mustered a lot of courage. Your zipper is down. Liu Ryan quickly glanced down, her face visibly turning bright red. Flustered, she turned her back to zip up. I almost burst out laughing, so I pinched my thigh hard to keep it in. Finally, I managed to win one round. The next day, at work, I stepped into the company building. I walked to my desk and was stunned. Where are my things? My desk was completely empty. All my stuff had mysteriously disappeared. Even my nameplate was gone. A male colleague who'd always had issues with me walked over. Gloating, he said, "So you thought you were climbing up the ladder, huh? Didn't expect to get fired the next day." Feeling pointless, I thought, but then Xiaoyan arrived a bit later, just as confused as I was. This company is really, damn it, they'll be waiting for arbitration. I was furious and turned around to leave. "Zhang Wansen, why are you still standing here?" our department director said with a smile. With a cold tone, I said, "I'm leaving now." "Yes, hurry up and go upstairs. I moved all your stuff up there yesterday afternoon." I honestly didn't understand what he meant. Go upstairs for what? The director saw my confused expression and exclaimed in shock, "Didn't HR tell you? President Liu transferred you to be her special assistant." My mind started racing. Liu Ryan must want to keep me under her nose to torture me. Does she really have to hold a grudge like this? All because I noticed her unzipped pants? The director leaned in and whispered to me, "The salary for the president's special assistant is 4 times your current pay. Yesterday, I took the liberty of accepting on your behalf. Do a good job. 4 times the salary?" I did a quick calculation in my head. Damn, that's a lot of money. "Director, you're truly wise." I gave him a thumbs up. With a reluctant look in his eyes, he added, "Zhejiang, will we still be able to go poop together?" I patted his shoulder. "Rain or shine, I'll be waiting in the top floor restroom for you." With that, I stepped into the elevator, basking in the envious and jealous stares of my male colleagues. Just before the elevator doors closed, I gave a smug smirk to the colleague who had mocked me earlier. It felt so good to hold my head high. When I walked into the president's office, Liu Ryan was holding a cup of coffee, gazing out through the floor-to-ceiling window. My eyes unconsciously drifted downward. At least today, she didn't forget to zip up. Without turning, Liu Ryan gritted out a few words from between her back teeth. "What are you looking at?" I quickly shifted my gaze away, looked up at the sky, and recalled yesterday, not staying a second longer. I had hastily walked out of the hospital room, as if there were wolves chasing me from behind. The smile at the corner of my mouth was getting harder to suppress. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Theft!" The whole office echoed with my hearty laughter. Liu Ryan's ears turned bright red. "Stop laughing," she snapped. "I've already thought about all the embarrassing things that happened from childhood to now." I barely managed to stop myself from laughing. "Alright, where do I work?" She tilted her chin up, motioning for me to look over there. Beside Liu Ryan's large, solid wood desk was a smaller desk, placed side by side. It looked like an extension of her own desk, and it was way too close. My face instantly fell. "Why don't you just have me sit on your shoulders while I work? Stop talking so much. Organize the files on my desk. Send them to whichever department needs them." Alright, I quickly slipped into the role of a special assistant. This job wasn't much different from being a secretary, to be honest. Passing messages for the president, bringing her tea and water, arranging meetings, and so on. Once I finished the tasks, Liu Ryan didn't have any new instructions for the moment. I sat nearby, browsing Jihu. I stumbled upon a trivia fact. Your tongue and your head can't move in opposite circles. Is that true? Skeptical, I stuck out my tongue and tried it. Sure enough, it couldn't be done. At that moment, I felt someone's gaze on me. I turned my head to see Liu Ryan's face, wearing an expression that was hard to describe. "Are you trying to mutate?" I suddenly remembered that I was with her. Feeling embarrassed, my eyes darted around for an idea. A thought came to me. Softly, I said, "President Liu, studies show ... Humans can't move their tongue and head in opposite circles," I said. "If you can, you're probably disabled. I just tried it myself." "I can. Do you want to try it too?" Liu Ryan rolled her eyes at me. "If you can do it, then so can I." "That's boring. I'm not going to try." "Come on, if you don't try, how will I trick you out of your money?" "I bet you can't." Upon hearing this, Liu Ryan was indeed provoked. She sat up straight, and with a serious expression, she asked, "What are we betting? How about 10,000 yuan?" Liu Ryan agreed immediately. She stuck out her crimson tongue and began to move her head, slowly in the opposite direction. At first, her movements were slow, but they became faster and faster. Wow, is she even human? If this could be mass-produced, wind turbines would have no place anymore. See, I told you. Liu Ryan managed to break even such an impossible challenge. She smiled smugly and extended her hand toward me. 10,000 yuan. Pay up. I chuckled twice. I was just joking. Haha, Liu Ryan replied, suddenly understanding. So you want to back out, huh? My fist is getting hard. Can I punch him? It seems that fate is truly unfair. It gave her a perfect face and figure, an excellent family background, and business acumen. But it also paired it with a personality that makes people grit their teeth. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and transferred 10,000 yuan. In that moment, I heard something break. Turns out it was my heart. Never again would I be so foolish. Notify all employees to attend the Mid-Autumn Festival activity in Meeting Room 1. Liu Ryan said, sitting at her desk. She buried her head in a document, and without looking up, she said, I immediately did as I was told. After finishing, I stared at her profile in a daze, putting everything else aside. A woman at work is really quite captivating. Even someone like Little Fairy Poo Poo is no exception. After a while, Liu Ryan stood up, straightening her back. Noticing I was staring at her, she reached out and flicked my forehead with her finger. Snap out of it, let's go. Being Liu Ryan's special assistant for a week now, I've never met a boss so easy to serve. Not pretentious at all, and not overly demanding. Most importantly, she's pleasing to the eye. Just sitting there, like a leopard. I feel a bit guilty earning this 30,000 yuan a month. Inside the meeting room, I quickly spotted Xiaoyan among the employees. I signaled for him to move over. Xiaoyan shifted a bit and asked, aren't you sitting with President Liu? Not needed now. Liu Ryan and the other executives were at the front, discussing something. After a while, she picked up the microphone and said, Mid-Autumn Festival is approaching. The company has prepared some employee benefits through a lottery draw. The rest of what she said went right over my head. All I heard was employee benefits. Earlier today, I won a limited edition outfit in a Peacekeeper Elite raffle. I had a feeling I might win something big this time too. At that moment, the director handed me a red envelope. Just as I was about to open it, I heard Xiaoyan next to me shout in excitement, Damn, Zizhong, I won a 10,000 yuan bonus. I looked down, and indeed, the paper Xiaoyan was holding read bonus 10,000 yuan. Around us, others were also exclaiming with surprise and joy. I grew even more nervous. If I win a big prize, I won't be able to recover the 10,000 yuan I lost to Liu Ryan last week. Taking a deep breath, I opened the red envelope. Xiaoyan and I froze at the same time. I pulled out the contents and found a beautiful photo of Liu Ryan. Her flamboyant signature was scribbled across it. My hand began to tremble. What kind of employee benefit is this? Giving out a signed photo of the boss? Can this be Eden or what? Before Xiaoyan could stop me, I gritted my teeth and tore the autograph photo in half. I shot a fierce glare at Liu Ryan at the front. Now that I looked again, even her once beautiful face seemed infuriating. The narcissistic general manager picked up the mic and said, the grand prize this time is a 10-year residency in a 300 square meter apartment at Jeshui Bay. Xiaoyan shook me wildly with excitement. Zizhong, Jeshui Bay, where the price is over 200,000 per square meter. Wonder who's lucky enough to win this. I scoffed with a look of disdain. It's all a trick. This kind of prize is definitely reserved for the company's irreplaceable elite. Think about it, I said. If you live in that house, you wouldn't be able to switch jobs, right? The more I spoke, the more I felt like my guess made sense. These capitalists are too cunning. One mid-autumn event to tie the elites to the company for 10 years. Meanwhile, Liu Ryan's pleasant voice came through the speakers again. Would the employee who drew the signed photo please come up to claim the grand prize? It turns out the elite is me. I stared down at the torn pieces of paper in my hand, wishing I could mend them with my mind. After a while, seeing no one come forward to claim the prize, Liu Ryan repeated the announcement again. I hesitated for a long time, wondering whether to go claim the prize or play dead. In the end, the allure of a grand apartment won me over and I resignedly stood up. I walked up to the stage under the gaze of hundreds of employees throughout the company. Liu Ryan extended her hand. "Give me the signed photo." I placed the torn pieces of paper into her hand, never taking my eyes off her face. It accidentally fell on the ground and broke, I added, trying to sound innocent. Liu Ryan let out a half-angry, half-amused laugh. Her expression said, "Keep making up stories." I looked up at the sky. I had to admit I was in the wrong here. Why did I act so quickly? Liu Ryan waved her hand. "Get down, I'll give you the keys when we're back in the office." I breathed a sigh of relief and walked off the stage, enduring the varied looks from all the employees. The feeling inside me? Impossible to put into words. At that moment, I just wanted to howl at the sky. But just we bay. I used to be too scared to even glance at it when passing by, afraid they'd make me pay for damaging it with a look. And now, who would have thought? I became an owner there. On the first day of moving into my new home, I posted 8 updates on my social media. Seeing the shock and questions from relatives and friends, I suddenly felt a surge of confidence. I began to think that next time, as part of employee benefits, I could probably win a Lamborghini or a Maybach. Feeling quite excited, I opened the door to throw out the trash. The door to the room across the hall also opened when I saw who walked out. I froze in place. It was Liu Ryan. "President Liu, did you also win the signed photo?" Liu Ryan glanced at me sideways, giving me a look as if I were an idiot. "This is my property, including the unit you're living in." She used her own house as an employee benefit. Is that even allowed? Of course, it is money talks. Then she uttered a few words that made me uncomfortable all over. "Play games with me." The memory of that absolutely horrible gaming experience replayed in my mind. Just thinking about it made my fists clench. Can I refuse? The answer was no. Now, not only was I working under her, but I was also living in her house. It's hard to say no to someone who's feeding you. I sighed quietly, where she couldn't see me. I stepped aside and said, "Come in." Liu Ryan was dressed in a beige loungewear set, looking fresh and warm. She kicked off a pair of house slippers and sat on my sofa, glancing around. For a moment, I had a weird feeling like we were living together. I shook my head, pushing the extra thoughts out of my mind. "Log in and start," I said. "Why don't you shoot when the enemy is practically kissing you?" "Lady, if you can't handle it, try turning on your screen. And serpentine movements, please. Don't run straight. You'll just become a sitting duck. Stop checking out the outfits. None of them are more expensive than yours. I'm probably the only one in the world. Who dares to scold the boss like this?" And the boss doesn't dare talk back. I put down my phone, staring at the ceiling with a look of utter despair. What was I thinking when I agreed to play games with her? 13 parachute jumps in 2 hours. Anyone watching would think this was a parachuting simulation game. Beside me, Liu Ryan, looking gloomy and pitiful, carefully glanced at me. "Well, I feel like I didn't do my best today," she muttered. Yeah, it goes soft after you die, except for your mouth." Liu Ryan seemed to deflate, curling up pitifully on the sofa, still playing her game. I turned my head to observe her, thinking to myself, no one would ever guess that this billionaire businesswoman, this elite of the corporate world, could be such a brainless mess. After a long silence, Liu Ryan said softly, "Jong Wonson, I'm hungry. Great. Now this special assistant job includes babysitting." Annoyed, I snapped, "If you're hungry, order takeout." "I'm sick of takeout," she replied, pouting. "If you don't cook for me today, I'll starve to death in your house." I was shocked, my eyes wide open. Has she been possessed? Seeing the seriousness in her expression, I reluctantly stood up to get dressed. Just moved in, so the fridge is still empty. Gotta go buy groceries. When Liu Ryan saw me getting dressed to leave, she quickly jumped up, grabbing my wrist and said anxiously, "Hey, if you don't want to cook, then don't. But don't leave." I looked at her, confused. "I'm just going grocery shopping." Liu Ryan realized her overreaction. A light blush appeared on her cheeks, and she touched her nose awkwardly. "I'll go with you." At the large supermarket, Liu Ryan was tossing everything she saw into the cart. 2 bags of Wagyu beef, some small lobsters, a few bread makers. For making breakfast. In no time, the shopping cart was piled up like a small mountain. I couldn't stand it any longer and said, "Liu Ryan, were you locked up for 800 years and just got released? Stop throwing random stuff in." She finally calmed down for a while. I busied myself picking out vegetables in the produce section. When I turned around, Liu Ryan was nowhere to be seen. She was acting like an 8-year-old kid. After searching for a while, I finally found her in the home goods section. The sales lady was beaming and saying, "What a pretty girl. Today, with every female item in our couple's collection, you get the male item for free. Come on, pick out what you like." Liu Ryan was actually seriously examining several sets of toothbrushes and slippers. I walked up behind her. "What are you doing?" "Oh, you're here. See if there's anything you like." I stared at her, bewildered. "Are these couple's items? What does that have to do with me, a single guy?" Liu Ryan replied, "See, that's where you don't get it. Like riding a bike to the bar. You save when you can and splurge when it counts. Isn't this buy one, get free? Besides, I needed new ones anyway." With that, she grabbed a set for herself. The sales lady's face was practically cramping from smiling so much. I casually picked up an item and glanced at it. My eyes nearly popped out. A pair of ordinary slippers for over 800 bucks. Are they gold-plated or something? I really don't understand the world of the rich. Just then, a male voice sounded behind Liu Ryan and me. "President Liu, you're here too." It was a sharp-looking middle-aged man. "The latest event for the restaurant has been drafted and sent to you. Please review this model when you have time." The two of them stood there, discussing work. I looked at the middle-aged man's face, and the more I looked, the more familiar it seemed. Wait a minute, isn't this the manager of that Western restaurant? The one from the night I had to work as a waiter? This guy comes around just to keep an eye on me, making me feel guilty whenever I try to slack off. He just called Liu Ryan boss. Mystery solved on the way back. I stayed silent the entire trip. "Jong Wonson, did you buy the spices just now?" I remained silent. "Why are you so good at playing games?" I stayed silent. "Why are you ignoring me?" I kept silent until Liu Ryan started getting agitated. Finally, I spoke. "Who owns that Western restaurant?" Liu Ryan's face went pale, her eyes darting away. "So you figured it out, huh?" I snorted. But honestly, I wasn't that mad. After all, it was just one night of being a waiter. It wasn't that exhausting. Plus, since meeting Liu Ryan, my salary has gone up. I've moved into a better apartment. And I'm even daring enough to buy 800 yuan slippers now. But acting like nothing happened would be a blow to my pride. When we got home, Liu Ryan was walking on eggshells. Even when she put her glass down after drinking water, it was as quiet as a mouse. Anyone would think she was living in a quiet place. I found it amusing, but I didn't show it on my face. At dinner, Liu Ryan helped serve the dishes onto the table, then quietly began eating. After a while, she hesitated and spoke up. I thought she was going to talk about that night. I lifted my chin, signaling for her to continue. "This dish is a bit salty. Hey, having food to eat is good enough. Don't be so picky." After dinner, Liu Ryan quickly walked into the kitchen to wash the dishes. I sat on the sofa, watching TV, but out of the corner of my eye, I kept watching her figure in the kitchen. Good-looking people even make washing dishes look pleasing to the eye. The apron was tied around her waist, highlighting her slim waistline. There was a sense of peace and tranquility about her. After a while, she said, "I'm leaving." I nodded. Before Liu Ryan walked out the door, she left a final word. "I'll be here for breakfast tomorrow. Special assistant, go climb a mountain," I muttered to myself. Later that night, lying in bed, I stared wide-eyed, completely unable to sleep. How did Liu Ryan and I become so familiar with each other? She's even picking up couples' housewares now. This situation is getting out of hand. I couldn't make sense of it. So I tried to sleep. In the blink of an eye, it had already been 2 months since moving into Jushui Bay, and these past 2 months had been nothing short of a living hell. Liu Ryan was just 1 step away from moving into my house. Every morning before work, she came over to mooch breakfast, and then we'd head to the office together, facing her all day at work. And then she'd show up for dinner right on time. After dinner, she'd make me play games with her. Both my sanity and my aesthetic sense had been brutally tortured. Now, whenever I saw a less attractive female colleague, I'd feel a strange sense of relief, like a breath of fresh air. It was a day off. The dishes in the pot were almost ready. I went to Liu Ryan's door to call her over. Just as I was about to knock, I noticed her door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and walked in. What I saw was Liu Ryan sitting across from a young, handsome guy. The guy was holding her tightly, sniffling from time to time as if he were crying. Liu Ryan was gently patting his back in a comforting way, her gaze so tender that it could almost drip water. My first reaction was to leave quickly before they noticed me, but I turned around too quickly and slammed my head right into the door frame. With a loud thud, it sounded like someone had hit a big drum inside the room. In an instant, I couldn't even feel my nose anymore. Liu Ryan turned around and saw me, pushing the boy in her arms away, and hurriedly walked over. "Zhejiang, are you okay?" She looked anxiously at my nose, which was throbbing in pain. "Let's go to the hospital," she insisted. She anxiously tried to pull me out the door. I shook my head, doing my best to ignore the discomfort in my heart. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at the boy on the sofa. I pulled my hand away from Liu Ryan's, opened the door, and walked out on my own. The moment I got back home, my shoulders slumped instantly. I hunched over and sat down on the sofa. Seeing that scene, why did it make me feel so bad? It was like a bottle of old vinegar had been knocked over inside me. The realization left me feeling both confused and scared. After spending so much time with Liu Ryan, I subconsciously began to think of her as being in my camp. And over the past 2 months, Liu Ryan had sent over countless items to my place that matched hers, from towels and slippers to jackets and pajamas. So much so that I had forgotten. How could a woman as amazing as her possibly not be dating someone? So she has a boyfriend after all. Then why does she stick around me all the time? Don't even think about eating my food anymore. I served the dish from the pot and sat at the table eating without tasting the food. It took me a long time to get my mood back on track. Then a female voice sounded in front of me. "Eating alone? Going to block me? Zhejiang?" I quickly looked up. It was Liu Ryan standing there. I looked down and continued eating. With a grumpy tone, I said, "What are you doing here?" Liu Ryan, completely unaware of any having a boyfriend consciousness, picked up a pair of chopsticks and began eating. Quick as lightning, I snatched the plate away. She grabbed at the air, missing it entirely. Then she gave me a pitiful look and complained, "What are you doing?" "Zhejiang, I'm starving here." I kept a straight face. "Go have your boyfriend cook for you." I warned her. "Don't try this with me. If your boyfriend sees this and beats me up, what am I supposed to do?" Liu Ryan stared at me for a moment, then suddenly burst out laughing. She still had the nerve to laugh. We were both single, so there was no pressure between us. Then, out of nowhere, she was suddenly off the market, and and I felt like a dog walking down the street who just got kicked. Liu Ryan got up and sat beside me. I quickly scooted over, maintaining a safe distance. Who said that was my boyfriend? I put on a who cares expression, but my ears perked up. That's my younger brother. He confessed to a girl he had a crush on for 2 years and got rejected. So he came to me to complain. Wow, even someone as handsome as him got rejected? Does that girl only like Daniel Wu or something? I was halfway convinced inside. Liu Ryan probably wouldn't lie to me, but I still grudgingly said, why should I just believe whatever you say? Liu Ryan pulled out her phone and showed me a family photo. I looked closely, my gaze sharpening. Wow, this family's genes really don't leave any room for unattractive people. So, do you believe me now? I pretended not to care and said, it doesn't matter whether I believe you or not. Alright. Eat. I put the plate back on the table. Her beautiful eyes were filled with laughter as she gazed at me softly. Feeling uneasy, I turned my head to avoid her gaze. She leaned closer and whispered in my ear, Zhejiang, are you jealous? The warm breath against my ear made half my body tingle. No, don't say nonsense. You are jealous, she insisted. Don't deny it. I looked at her angrily. Her bright pupils clearly reflected my face. Suddenly, I couldn't think of a rebuttal. I scratched my head in frustration. Alright, maybe just a little bit. Liu Ryan beamed, her white teeth shining. So beautiful I almost couldn't keep my eyes open. Zhejiang, does being jealous mean you like me? Could I admit that? If she likes me too, that's fine. But if she doesn't, I'd lose face. I pressed my lips tightly together. Sometimes playing dumb is really the best move. Liu Ryan saw me pretending to be oblivious. She sighed. You really forgot about your ex-girlfriend? For a moment, I thought I was hearing things. What ex-girlfriend? Liu Ryan nodded sincerely. Are you an idiot? How could I not know I was in a relationship? We are each other's first love, you know? Liu Ryan's tone was so sweet, it could squeeze out honey. I lowered my head, mimicking the classic pose of a monk thinking deeply, trying to recall if I'd ever known such a person. I really couldn't think of anything. Seeing me scratching my head in confusion, Liu Ryan smiled, clearly amused by my expression. Finally, I asked, did you go to the Capital Central Kindergarten, Class 1? I thought for a moment, then nodded. Does that ring a bell? With that hint, I did manage to pull out some fragments from my old memories. When I was a kid in kindergarten, I was undoubtedly the king among the children. In our class, there was a delicate little girl, much shorter than the other kids her age, always with tears brimming in her eyes, looking so timid. The other kids didn't like her much and would bully her all the time. Eventually, she probably realized that if she stayed close to me, she wouldn't get bullied. So she'd often bring me cakes, candies, and little treats. Kids are easy to win over with things like that. Plus, her sweet little mouth would always call me Big Brother John. After that, we became inseparable, as close as could be. One day, she suddenly asked me to be her boyfriend, saying she'd marry me when we grew up. I thought about it for a while and agreed immediately. While other kids were crying for their moms, the two of us were already talking about romance. Quite ahead of our time, I must say. But eventually, we graduated from kindergarten and went to different primary schools. That relationship just sort of ended. Fragile as if made of paper, the face of the current Liu Ryan slowly merged with the memory of that delicate, tear-streaked little girl from my childhood. I awkwardly forced a smile. When did you recognize me? The first time I saw you. When you came at me with a baseball bat, asking if I was little fairy poo-poo. You look just as mischievous as you did back then. Exactly the same. I couldn't help but exclaim, wow, you recognized me that early? I've heard of people being devoted, but not this devoted. Back then, we were just kids, barely out of our diapers. And yet you remembered me all this time? You didn't think about me since then, did you? All the way until we grew up. I looked at her in disbelief. How could that be? When we graduated from kindergarten, I cried for several days, but I gradually forgot. But after recognizing you that day, I felt you were even more likable than you were back then. So I started thinking about you all over again. Alright, Zhejiang, do you want to get back together with me? I'll think about it, I replied, pretending to be aloof, putting on a nonchalant face, but inside my heart was bursting with joy. Liu Ryan. As you peel away the layers of her elegant, icy exterior, you discover her heart is like a genuine little sweet pastry. Liu Ryan squinted her eyes, and her too mischievous hands started tickling me. I squirmed like I was wound up with a spring. Will you get back together with me? Will you or won't you? Ha ha ha, stop. Get back together. Is that enough? Please, just stop. Liu Ryan finally stopped and tightly hugged me. I reached out and hugged her back, feeling her smooth long hair against my cheek and inhaling the fresh, warm scent from her body. It was a scent I had never smelled before, so pleasant. I remembered reading a post once that said when you smell a unique fragrance on someone, it means your genes have chosen them. I used to scoff at such ideas, but now I deeply believe it. Liu Ryan. I'm your boyfriend now. So if I work for you in the future, you're not going to cut my salary, right? Liu Ryan sighed, then kissed my forehead gently. I'll double your salary. The next day at work, I didn't keep my usual distance from Liu Ryan, entering one after the other. Instead, I took the initiative to hold her hand. When a person feels so happy, the first instinct is not to laugh, but to cry. As we walked in hand, everyone's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. They all gave us looks of shock. Xiaoyan secretly gave me a thumbs up. The director came over. Congratulations, President Liu. You finally got what you wished for. Liu Ryan smiled widely. 5,000 extra bonus this month, she announced. Upon hearing this, everyone started chattering excitedly. They're a great match. Congratulations, President Liu. Zhejiang, we're waiting for your wedding banquet. After all, who doesn't want to earn a few extra thousand with a simple compliment? Liu Ryan, radiating the scent of both money and love, waved her hand. Everyone gets a bonus this month. The room erupted in cheers of joy. The director chuckled and came up to me. Zhejiang, it wasn't in vain that President Liu had me slip you that signed photo. Make sure to be happy. Suddenly, everything clicked for me. No wonder my luck seemed so good, I thought. So I really was her chosen lead all along. I turned to look at the woman beside me. Sensing my gaze, she looked back at me, her smile radiant. My heart started to race uncontrollably. So this is what love feels like. And it feels amazing. In the end, the invincible Tyrannosaurus warrior and the little demon fairy love Baba lived a happy life.